Okay. How's everybody doing? Give me 1 second and we should be going here in just a second. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's get started today. This is our Ask Me Anything session. You can ask me anything you want today, and I will be happy to answer it for me. If you have questions for me and you are watching on Zoom, which means you're part of our Zero to Pitch community, you can put your questions for me in the chat box. Just do that. And if you are watching on YouTube, you can do the exact same thing. Put your questions for me in the chat box, and I will be happy to answer them as well. So let's get started. And I think I have the same question twice, which is pretty cool. So, okay, so here we go. So I am a solo founder, bootstrapping for a long time. After many years of R&D, patents, product development, procurement, at risk management, AA risk management, etc., have initial traction with a production and paying tier one bank customer, very good, and a handful of successful POCs with large financial services firms. I feel the time is right to raise funds to build out the team and scale up. The issue I have is how to structure reasonable equity for new team members, given that I have already put many years of sweat equity, IP, and development costs totaling greater than $2 million to get to this point. For example, if I wanted a co-CEO, how much equity should he or she get? Okay, this is a very detailed, nuanced question. And without more detail, a little bit challenging to answer. But in this particular case, I'm going to do my best. And I'm going to tell the person who's asking me the question because I know who she is. And she is part of our paid community, Zero to Pitch Gold. Please come to office hours so I can give you a more detailed answer, get more understanding of what you're trying to do. We can kind of go back and forth, but I'll do my best for you today so you can at least get an idea where I'm coming from. Okay, awesome. And she says, will do, which is great. So let me answer the last question first, because I have an interesting take on the last piece, which I think is important. Please don't bias, don't get a co-CEO. Co-CEOs are a waste. You'll never find somebody good. And the essential problem with co-CEOs, I know that's not why you're really asking the question, but anyways, let me just give you kind of more of a thought process regarding it. With co-CEOs, the problem is that you'll never find somebody good, number one. It's you can't recruit that person. You're not going to find anybody good. And then the second problem with co-CEOs is who runs the company? Is it you? Is it the other person? You can't have two leaders. There needs to be one leader in a business, and that's you, for better or worse. So, go find great team members who augment your skills, who can help you. You're the leader. You'll be a great CEO. Trust in your skills and find people that are going to help you in other ways and are going to help augment your skill set. That's what you're looking for. That's the most important thing at this stage. So that's the answer to the last part of your question. Now, the first part of your question is, again, I'd love more details on what's going on, especially the $2 million, because that may make things more complicated. But let's ignore that piece, and then let's talk about what's going on, and let's see what's happening. I'm sorry, somebody just put a question on the YouTube thing, which distracted me for just a second here. So, anyways, the question of what do you do? The high level answer here, which is not going to make you feel good, but you have to think about the perspective of the people that you're trying to hire. Let's say that you found a great, I don't want to say co-CEO, but let's say you're really looking for a great technologist, a great CTO, I don't know, great VP of marketing, whatever. and they want to come in not as a, let's say, let's first deal with the co-founder portion of this. Okay, so let's deal with that. So the co-founder side of things. I'm sorry, just a second here. I just want to make sure of something. This isn't making sense to me. What's going on? So just bear with me for a second. I apologize. Let's see how this is working. Okay, it is working. Okay, good. Okay, cool. So everything should be good here. So anyways, I just want to make sure that we were actually streaming on YouTube too. So we are. So anyway, so let's say you're looking for somebody world-class as a co-founder, and you put in all this work and time and effort, and it's totally understandable that you would feel like I put all this energy and this effort in, I should get more back. Okay, totally understood. But now let's put ourselves on the other side of the ledger. What do you do if you're on the other side of the ledger? And let's say that you are really, really good, one of the best of the best, and you're offering them something that's below market. Are they going to join you? No, because in one sense, being brutal about this, they're not going to care about the sweat equity and everything else you put in. All they're going to care about is themselves. So you have to think forward about equity is kind of the bottom line of the answer here. And obviously there's a lot more detail. There's a lot more nuance to this, but you have to think forward about equity. You have to think about, well, what happens next? What's the result this person is going to bring me? That's what matters. So that's the high level answer. So typically for co-founder splits, if it's like 90-10, for 90 for you, 10 for the co-founders, those, and especially if it's an experienced co-founder is bringing a lot to the party, that's probably not going to work very well, would be what I would tell you. However, if it's a non-co-founder situation, then you're going to just give out standard equity for the various roles that you're going to have at the stage of the company. So typically for, C-level executives, vice presidents, early stage companies, non-co-founders are going to be somewhere around 1% to 2%, depending upon the role. So it's a longer answer. There's a lot more detail we can get into in office hours of Zero to Pitch Gold. And the nice thing about office hours and Zero to Pitch Gold is we actually get to talk to each other and go back and forth. So anyways, I hope that helps. It's a kind of long-winded answer to what's going on. So let me go to the next question on our list, which is also from our Zoom audience. So these are our Zero to Pitch audience. If you want to join Zero to Pitch, you can do that. And you can go to can scan the QR code there and join Zero to Pitch Gold also and get in that way as well. So you have options. But anyways, let me go to the question that we have here. I'm a brand new startup company in culinary tech. We have zero revenue. As I am finishing building my pitch deck and business plan, I am trying to figure out how long our runway funds should be calculated. How should I approach this when we are seeking 100% of investment for a company that hasn't made a single dollar yet? Okay, well, here's part of your challenge. Part of your challenge is that if you don't have any money, I don't know how much money you're trying to raise, but if you're trying to raise, let's say, a reasonable money, like $1 million or something like that, that's almost impossible to do with no revenue, no customers, no nothing. You're probably, when we look at kind of the hierarchy of where do we raise money from, it typically starts with our friends and family, typically, and ourselves. That's typically our first source of money, just like in the previous question. She put her own money into the business. That's typically how most businesses get started, is you dig in. That's how I started my company. I funded it for 2 years, putting money in, to keep the business afloat. That's what most people do at the start because there is no market, you know, to buy in because you haven't done enough, to prove anything to people. So that's the first challenge. So having said that, if you're going to raise money, even if it's a small amount of money, even if it's from your friends and family or whatever, we want that money ideally. This is ideally. Now, in early stage cases, this may not happen, but ideally, we want this money to last us 12 months to 18 months. Ideally. That's what we want. It should be working. Okay. All right. So anyways, it should be, 12 to 18 months is what we want. So ideally. Now, for a lot of smaller companies, I've seen this time and time again, where what we find is that early stage companies may not be able to raise that much. So they may be in what I call perpetual fundraising mode. So they may be raising smaller dribs and drabs of money and somehow or other surviving on the dribs and drabs of money and getting by on that. And that's all fine. You do what you need to do. You just have to slow down your operations. You may not be able to do as much. You may not be able to go as fast. That's all normal. That's okay. So you do what you have to do. But ideally, as I said, you want to go about 18 months ideally. Less than that, the reason why less than that's a problem, it takes time to raise money. Average time is about 6 months to raise money, but that's the average. It can take longer, a lot longer. Trust me from personal experience on this one. It took me 2 years, to raise the initial funding for my company. And the initial funding is typically the hardest. So it is a challenge, to do this. So anyways, I hope that answers your question. Okay, next question. Hey, Brett, I had a question. How does a normal nobody with a sound business plan go about finding investors? How does a person actually do that? Do they send an email to a PE company saying hi, et cetera, et cetera? Well, what happened? Oh, no. Well, that's probably part of the problem we have here. I don't know if anybody's watching me on YouTube, but my YouTube audience, I don't think we have a stream going. So this is a little bit of a problem. I'm not exactly sure why, but it doesn't look like it's working. Just noticed everything just turned off on me. So that's no good. No good at all. Let's see what's happening here. Yeah, it just turned off. Okay. Can you see me? YouTube is working. Okay, so if somebody in the YouTube audience can say, "Hey, I can see you," that would be great. All right. Okay. YouTube just now ran an ad. Okay, for your stream, maybe that's why it cut off. Okay, well, all right. Let's assume that you guys, it comes back. I can see. Okay, awesome. Great. It's a little odd. I'm not exactly sure why. Normally, the way I work things, I have two screens going at once, and I can usually see both. And for some reason or another, not seeing what I normally see. So hopefully everything will work out. So anyways, let me answer the question here. So how does a normal nobody with a sound business? Okay, you have to figure out how you're going to get to people. Typically, there are 3 ways that we do this. The first is the most ideal, is we use our network. That's the best way to do it, right? Is if you know people, you go ask them and you ask for what are called warm introductions. That's the best way. The second way to do it and the second way and the third way are kind of related, is you use a tool like crunchbase.com and you start searching. No matter where you are in the world, you can find a list of investors that will invest in your segment for most things, not for all things, but for most things. So you can find a list of investors, build out that list, and then you have to figure out how are you going to get to them. So then this is where step two comes in. You would use LinkedIn as step number two and see if you know anybody that knows the specific investor. And then you ask for an introduction, which is a reasonably smart thing to do. Say, hey, do you know person X? Would you mind introducing me? The third way is the dreaded cold email, where you still use this list and you develop a cold email to get to them. The video that I have coming out tomorrow goes over this in a little bit of detail on how to do this. Also, we'll provide you with a link to a free training that I have on this particular subject that you can just literally scan the QR code, hop onto the free training, and see what to do and watch that. So that'll be there for you tomorrow if you watch the video I'm coming out with at noon Eastern time in the United States, 9 o'clock Pacific time in the United States, which is 5 o'clock over in the UK, 6 o'clock over in Central Europe. So anyways, that'll be tomorrow. You should be able to get that. So watch for that, and that'll help. Okay, questions. If you have questions for me, you can put them in the chat box on Zoom or YouTube if you want, and I will be happy to answer them for you. So I hope, by the way, I hope that answered your question. Wow, no questions today. This is a really interesting day. No questions. I'll give everybody another minute or so. Usually I have tons of questions. But I guess there's just like in raising money, it takes time sometimes to raise money. There's a variance in how many questions I get every day as well. So let's see if we have any other questions. Hang on. There we go. Okay, give me a minute. Here we go. There's our next question. Very good. Okay. If I have an idea for a product, how do I make a mold? Okay. Is there more to the question than that? I'm hopeful. How do I make a mold? I don't know how to answer that because it sounds like you have a physical product that you're trying to make. So can you give me kind of a little bit more detail on the question? That might help. Okay, while we wait for that, let's go to our next question. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay. How do I determine the TAM and SAM for my company? I keep getting conflicting info and I don't know what to do. Okay, I just put out a video on this one last week, but I'll give you guys kind of the brief synopsis on what to do here. Okay, so the brief synopsis on what to do. If you're trying to figure out TAM and SAM, let me give you the definitions first. TAM, total available market. This represents the vision of your company. Long-term vision of your company equals TAM. That's the way to think about this. So think about the long-term vision, think about what you're trying to do through the life of the company, all the different products, all the different services, all the different marketing channels. If you had 100% of that market, every single customer bought your product, that would equal the total available market for your product. So now what's served available market? The served available market is the market that you can attack today. And there are two constraints on this. The product that you have probably has limitations to it, so that's going to narrow that down. And the number of customers you can get to is going to get narrowed down as well, because you probably don't have all the marketing channels that you might have a few years down the road. So that's our served available market. So served available market is where we start. Total available market is where we finish. It's okay to have a smaller served market. That's fine. What you will find, and this is true from personal experience, it is hard to get to $1 million a year in revenue, even though we may have visions of getting to $1 billion a year in revenue. It is hard, very hard to do this. So it's okay to have a smaller market. In fact, I would almost urge you to have a smaller market, because then you'll niche down. And by niching down, you'll be relevant to the core group of customers you're trying to get to. One of the big mistakes people make when they're starting out is they think, oh, I got to go after this big market. It's okay if we get 1% of the market. No, it's not, because you won't be relevant to anybody. Instead, find a small group of customers that you can serve really well and have a better solution for than anybody else. Serve them and then build out from there. Much better way to go. So, okay, let's go to our next question. Okay, this is from our Zoom audience, which means they are part of Zero to Pitch. I'm stepping into the role of visionary founder with a bold idea. Even though I'm new to the world of startups, economics, and the creator space, I see a gap in how creators are supported, empowered, and rewarded. Okay, great. And I'm building something to change that. I'm launching a Kickstarter campaign for a project that I believe will revolutionize the creator economy. Not just by giving creators tools, but by redefining the entire foundation creators build upon. It's a long question. I may not be a developer or an economist, but I am a builder of vision. I'm looking for guidance, support, and a community that believes in what creators can be, not just what they are today. I need to learn how to make a Kickstarter campaign to make it profitable for this idea. I need influencers. How do I can't gain those? How do I gain those? How do I find influencers for your Kickstarter campaign? You got to reach out. I've never, okay, let me give you a caveat to everything I'm going to say. I've never done a Kickstarter campaign or anything like it. So I'm a little bit, I'm not the expert on this subject, but just thinking logically, if you want somebody to endorse your product, which is essentially what you're asking for, you have to find these people. Second, you have to reach out to these people. Third, you've got to make it worth their while. And this is, by the way, probably the third is not make it worth their while. Third is you got to sell them. Why is your product and service so great? What is it that you're doing that's going to benefit the world? And then you have to make it worth their while. What's the trade going to be for them? What are they going to get in return? So you have to think through all of these steps, I would say, before you start talking to influencers. And you may need to right size the influencers, because let me just pick a random name. Let's say that you're trying to get LeBron James to support you. LeBron James probably isn't going to support you, would be my guess. So maybe it's a second or a third tier influencer or a fourth tier influencer, maybe better. Don't know. But you'll have to see, because this is kind of like trial and error. You've got to go out, see what the market comes back to you with, and see what people are saying, whether they're saying, hey, yeah, I want to go do this, or not interested. That's how you would go about doing this. So keep it simple. Take these simple 4 steps that I said and see where that takes you. That's what I would do. Okay, let's go to our next question. Okay, so we're going back to this previous question. If I have an idea for a product, how do I make a mold? How do I go about producing a product at mass scale from just something I have made in my house? Okay. So now, okay, this is going to be a very high level answer because I don't know exactly what you're doing, but having built and been in the physical products business most of my life, you have to go, and if you're going from, okay, I have a prototype and maybe you are using some sort of printer, to print out your product, so you can make it at small scale. That is a way to do this, and you've got to find somebody who can take that design that you have and then start building it out at larger scale. So you would find the manufacturers that do this. And there are plenty of manufacturers for various things out there that will help you build product for a price. This is what we do. So we would go find the people. And then just like in the previous thing, just because you want them to build something doesn't mean they will build it. There's sometimes competition to work with people. And you have to right size yourself. So different manufacturers build at different size of scale, and it has to be worth their while. So there are people that will build small production runs of things. There are people that will build mid-sized production runs of things, and there are people that will build large production runs of things. You have to find the people that will build the size that you're looking for. And then you have to figure out, what are they looking for from a financial perspective? How much money do they want for this? How much money do they want up front? How are you going to pay them? So all of this has got to go into the equation of how you're going to go at this. So that's the high level answer to your question. I hope that helps. All right, let's go to the next question. What are the prerequisites to reach out to you? You can go on my website, brettjfox.com, and there are two different pages you can go to. You can go to the coaching page, and you can fill out a form there, or you can go to the pitch training page, and you can go fill out a form there if you want to reach out to me that way. So those are two ways. And then the third way is you can go to Zero to Pitch, which is my free website for CEOs. That's one way, and join that. That's one way to do it. Or you can, and that will be limited communication with me, by the way. It'll be meetings like this. Or you can go to the paid website, Zero to Pitch Gold. There's the QR code right there on my right shoulder that you can see to the right of me. Scan that QR code. It costs all of $125 a month to join. And by the way, price is going up at the end of June 2025 to $150 a month. So if you get in now, you're locked in at that price for life. You don't have to worry about the price going up anymore. It's yours. So it's a great time to join. So if you're serious, want to grow your business, that's a great way to do it. So those are two options for me. Can you list a relative list on your website? Okay, so the answer to your question is just go ahead, reach out, and there will be a list of questions so my time is not wasted. Thank you. All right, so do we have other questions for me? If we have questions for me and you are my Zoom audience, you can put them. Okay, so we have a question in our Zoom audience. Okay, Brett, I don't see anything in the zero to pitch gold. I'm sorry for that. I don't see anything in the Zero to Pitch Gold calendar for office hours. Is that the same as the Pitch Tech review? Aha. So for this particular person who is both a member of Zero to Pitch, the free group, and Zero to Pitch Gold, the paid group, you're in the free group's calendar. So if you look at the free group's calendar, it is different than the paid group's calendar. So if you switch over to Zero to Pitch Gold, you'll notice the calendar there that we have office hours literally every day. So Mondays and Tuesdays, it is 8 a.m. Pacific time in California, 5 o'clock in the UK where you are. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, like today is a Wednesday when we're taping this, Wednesdays and Thursdays at 3 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock in the UK, midnight in Central Europe, and God knows what time it is over in Asia and Australia, but early in the morning there, so people can watch there. And then Friday, we are 9 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock in the UK, 6 o'clock in Central Europe, 7 o'clock in the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, that's the answer. So that was the confusion there on that. All right, awesome. Any other questions for me? You can put them in the chat box on Zoom or YouTube, and I will be happy to answer those questions. See what our... Okay, funding guidance for an early stage startup. I'd love to hear your insights. I'm building a newly born startup, a mobile app that's about to launch. We're at the execution stage with the product ready to go live soon. I'm curious to know what's the best way to approach investors at this early phase. Okay, it's a really good question. There are multiple questions here. Also, could you recommend any platforms or communities where early stage startup apps can raise funding or connect with the right investors? Thanks in advance for your advice. Okay, this is so broad that I can't get specific on the answers, but let me tell you the challenges right now that you have when anybody listening to this, by the way, has these same challenges. You're developing something, you have no customers yet, you don't have a product yet, you're getting close, and now you want to find investors. So the first thing you have to figure out is, well, who's going to invest in my company at this stage? Now, this is going to vary, by the way, because you can raise lots of money. And I'm going to put a caveat on this, with no product and just a pitch deck and a team, maybe, or even yourself. I've seen that happen as well. But these are the exceptions to the rule. Typically, if we're in that situation, there are two reasons you can do it. I was able to raise money, by the way, with just a team and a pitch deck. And the reason was, in my particular case, is we were known entities, and the team and myself had success previously. So that really helped us. The one person I worked with, solo founder who was able to raise money, similar situation. He had success before. And then the similarities between our companies, we were going after very big markets. So you have those things. Sometimes you can raise reasonable sums of money, millions of dollars, when you're in that situation. But that's the exception. Most people aren't, like probably you, which is probably why you're asking the question. So what do you do in your particular situation? You have to right size yourself, which means that the first step, especially for software products, is going to be, again, if we're at this beginning, it may be a combination of yourself, your friends, your family. Those are people who are always going to give you small sums of money depending upon who you know. Maybe they'll give you larger sums of money if you're lucky and you have a rich uncle or something like that. But if you don't, this is the group, right? We've got our friends, we got our family. That's what we've got to deal with. The second group might be angel investors, depending upon what you're doing and depending upon where you are in the world. So angel investors might be interested. They might put in a small sum of money because they get excited by what you're doing. They get excited by the market you're going after. They get excited by your vision. So these are the potential people. It would be very unlikely, unless you're in kind of this exception place that I was describing, where venture capitalists are going to be interested in you at this stage. It's possible, but it's very unlikely. That's what I would tell you. So your group is probably going to be friends, family, and yourself, and maybe angel investors. And that means probably you're going to raise, I don't know, $100,000, maybe $200,000. Maybe you get lucky, get all the way up to $500,000, something like that. That might be it. That's probably what you're going to have to do. And then you have to right size yourself, which means that, okay, we've got to figure out, we're here. What can we do with this money so that we can get to here and reduce the risk? Because this is all about risk reduction, which kind of seems weird, right? We're building a startup, we're supposed to go fast and break things and all those types of things. And the answer is, well, yes and no. Because yeah, we want to go fast, but whatever our next major milestone is, that's got to reduce the risk for the next group of investors that come in. And then when you do that one, it's the next group and so forth and so on. That's the way this works. So from your perspective right now, since you're kind of at this early stage, friends, family, these are people that love you and care about you and yourself. These are going to be your most likely group of investors, and maybe you can find some angels to put some money in. That's the most likely thing. The platforms and communities, that's, you have to think specifically to yourself and what you're doing and where you are geographically. That's going to give you the best answer. So I hope that helps. All right, let's go to our next question. Okay, if we have a question for me on Zoom or YouTube, please pop it in there and I'll be happy to answer it. We've got time for a few more questions. So let's go to the next one on our list. Should founders have a college education? Well, if you think about one of the most famous founders ever, in fact, there's several very famous founders that don't really have college education. So the answer is, I think you're better off with a college education personally, but is it a prerequisite? No. That's what I would answer. And there's so many people that have been successful without completing college. But again, these are usually the exceptions, not the rule. Look, I got a daughter who's 20 years old. I wouldn't tell her, if she decided to start a company right now, she's got one more year left in college. I would not be advising her to drop out, because I think that's a mistake. I think you should finish your education. But hey, that is a thing you can do, and people will listen to you. Look, if you've got a great idea and you're doing something really interesting, people will give you money, potentially, depending upon where you're at. All right, let's see. Do we have any other questions today? Okay, here's a good question. How do I get my SaaS product to get capital without getting in debt? All right. Well, again, this is a super high level question. When we're thinking about potential sources of money, friends, family, ourselves, debt would mean we're going to take out a loan. Typically banks aren't going to deal with us. Maybe we can have a bank deal with us, but typically loans means there's a collateral, and maybe in the United States you have the Small Business Association, which could help you. There's a company called Fundbox which does small business loans as well. Maybe they would be able to help you. Those are all possibilities, but the nice thing is if you can raise a small amount of capital, then there is no loan. And if you're worried about what if I fail, do I owe the money back to the investors? No, you don't. That's the nice thing. So anyways, I hope that answers your question. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. You can put your questions in the chat box or the Q&A box on Zoom. Actually, the chat box would be better. Chat box on YouTube or the Q&A box on Zoom. What am I doing? The chat box on Zoom as well. Okay. Looks like we have no more questions. Wow. A short one today. All right. So let me wrap up. I'll give you guys a minute or so to ask any more questions. And while I'm waiting, you should notice there is that free QR code there. If you're interested in really speeding up your game, you like kind of what you're hearing from me, you like my videos, all that kind of stuff, and you want to work with me, a way to do this, which is the most economical way to do this, is join our paid community, Zero to Pitch Gold. We have daily office hours there. There are courses in there to help you learn what you're doing. That is a way to get more. You get my time as well. Literally have office hours for about an hour a day, Monday through Friday. Scan the QR code and literally click a button, put in your credit card, and you're in. And you can quit anytime you want. If you don't like it, that's cool. Just go ahead and quit. And you could be working with me literally in another hour if you did that. So if there's another question for me, please go ahead and ask it. Somebody says, hey, I have a question. Okay, I'm waiting for the question and I'll be happy to answer it. Okay, there we go. In practice, what is actually more likely to persuade investors to invest? Charisma or a sound business plan? Well, contrary to popular belief, you can sit there and swing from the chandeliers and have a ton of quote unquote charisma, and that doesn't buy you anything. Just be yourself when you're presenting to investors. That's the most important thing. Investors, the bet is on the CEO. And yeah, charisma helps at some level. You don't want to be sitting there like a dead log when you're presenting to people, but you don't have to be the most graceful presenter in the world to raise money. That's not what this is about. Again, early stage startups, a large portion of it is the bet and the belief on the CEO. But it doesn't mean that you have to be a showman, to do this. Just be yourself. Practice. One of the things that I would say is the biggest problem most people have when they raise money is they don't practice. And it comes out and you can see it. So I'll give you the best analogy. I use this analogy all the time. Steve Jobs, for a 1 hour presentation, would practice it 100 times. 100 times. The best presenter ever, arguably, would practice 100 times a pitch. So my question is, why aren't you doing the same thing? This should be like life or death to you. You're raising money. It's super important. Why aren't you putting in that time and effort and energy? Yet I see this time and time again that people don't do it. So you should do it. So that's my answer. Okay, so this person goes on. I'm thinking of Adam Neumann of WeWork, or the dude who founded that fake electronic company. Yeah, who I think almost went into jail or something like that. I don't know whether these are great examples. And look, you could talk about Elizabeth Holmes too in that same group of people who pulled the wool over people's eyes. There are always going to be people like that. But look, if you're trying to do things the right way, you have a good idea. Yes, you got to be able to sell the idea. But most good investors invest in good, sound businesses. They don't invest in stupid things. And when they make mistakes, and investors make lots of mistakes, they move on. But look, this is your company, so flip the question around. You're trying to succeed here, right? You're not just trying to raise money and fail. So if you want to succeed, then you want to build a business that's sound. You want to build a business that's good. And then you need to be able to explain it and get people excited about what you're doing. It doesn't require you to be a showman, though, to do it. That's my point. Just be you. Be the best, most excited version of yourself and practice. That's the answer. Okay, we have another question. Hi, Brett. Just wanted to say thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. I used to repeatedly watch your videos and gained a lot about starting startup and investment. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. Okay, next question. Hi, Brett. I'm excited to see you live. My question is, what do you say to VCs who pass on to some startups and then give the pitch deck to other startups, competitors that they have invested in? I say that's the price of doing business. May not be what we want to hear. Look, what you should do at the bottom of your pitch deck is put something in the footnote that says confidential, do not copy. Now, that will not stop an investor if they want to do this, but remember this. Investing is a people business. They can't screw founders right, left, up, and down. That's not typically a smart way to go for investors. So yes, will investors pass on your deck to other people to get a response? Yes, they will. That's life in the big city, is what I would tell you. You know, it's not going to kill you. Nobody. Let me give you one other thought on this. If somebody can steal your business from a pitch deck, that ain't much of a business. Think of it that way. Because there has to be more to your business than just what's on the deck. Yes, the deck may say, here's our plan, here's what we're doing, et cetera, and isn't that great? But there has to be more to it. It's not so easy to steal a business because you have to be able to develop things, and usually those are hard to do or challenging, and there's some other barriers there. So I personally wouldn't worry about it. You know, and if it happens, it happens, and that's the cost of doing business. Look, I got plenty of decks after we were funded, and typically the reason I got the decks was one of our investors wanted our comments about a company they were interested in investing in. That was it. It wasn't to give us ideas to steal, even if they were reasonably close in proximity to what we were doing. You know, we'd look at it, we'd give our comments, and we'd move on with what we were doing. So I hope that helps. Okay, this is a really good question. Hi, Brett. You once said the exit plan should not be in a deck. Can you elaborate more? Yeah, I think this is a really good question, actually. So the reason why you shouldn't put your exit plan in a deck is because investors don't want to hear you talking about exiting your business just when you're starting out. That's the reason. They want you focused on executing. And don't you think they know what the exit plan is? There are only two. So they know what you can do and what the exit plan is. It's either you're going to get acquired, which is probably 90% of the companies that have a successful endpoint to them. You're going to get acquired, or you're going to IPO, one of those two. You don't need to tell them. They already know all of this. What do they want you focused on? They want you focused on execution. So don't play their game. When you start telling them how to run their businesses, what your company's going to be worth, all those types of things, you're falling into a massive trap. You don't need to do it. Focus on what you do, what you know best, which is how to execute and how to build your business. Okay, I hope that helps. All right, let's go to our next question. I am a non-technical founder, though we still hold on building stage and hire a tech team to build the platform, and the tech team wants a long-term commitment. But the problem there is they are far from us. Okay, I'm not sure what the question is there. Sounds like you have a tech team in a remote place. That's what I'm gathering from this. And they want a long-term commitment, and you've hired a team of people somewhere in the world, you know, to help you build your product. Okay, I would need more information to be able to help you. I apologize. Okay, this may be our last question. I am building a niche dating app. I 100% believe in my idea. Okay, good. The problem I have is one technical advisor and freelancers. Okay, the problem. I have one technical advisor and freelancers, but no technical founder. Red flag to raise? Absolutely. If you need a technical founder and you are not technical, it is going to be really difficult to raise money. It is a massive red flag. You need to find that person. You need to own up to that. By the way, I had the same problem, even though I am technical, but I was not going to be the technical brains behind our company. I needed somebody that was more technical than me to run the engineering end of our business. And until we had that person in place, we were not going to be able to raise money, full stop. Even though people loved what we were doing, I needed that person to round out the team. And that was just the deal. So you have to go find that person. So rather than fight it, just go find them. That's the answer. Okay. Got time for maybe one more question. If somebody pops one in there, I'll be happy to answer it. If not, then we'll call it a day. I'll give you guys a little bit more time. Okay, here it is. I think this is our last question. I have a service-based business. What investors would be best? Luxury lifestyle management. Okay, don't know what the last piece is. So if you have a service-based business, think about people in and around your industry. Now, if we're talking really early stage, let's say you are pre-revenue, pre-product or whatever, or just finishing up your first product, let's say, it's typically going to be people who have experience or maybe one step removed experience from what you're doing. Those are the most likely investors you're going to get. Typically, they will be angels, people who've had success in the industry, maybe retired executives, family offices, et cetera. That's probably the people that are most likely to invest at this stage in your business. You can't, if you're, I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this, but if you're, and also there are going to be people that probably are physically in your area as well. So let's say you're based in London, then find people in London. Don't find people in Chicago, because the Chicago people are not going to more like are going to be less likely to invest in the people in London. I hope that kind of answers your question. So you want to have geographic proximity, especially early stage. That helps a lot. And you want to have people that have relevant experience in what you're doing, because they'll understand what you're doing as well. That will help you. All right, I think that probably covers it. So that's probably our last question for today. So with that, thank you all so much. Again, if you want to go deeper, you want to build your startup out faster, scan that QR code on my right shoulder, to the right of my right shoulder there, and hop on board to Zero to Pitch Gold, $125 a month. But that only lasts through the end of this month. So anyways, with that, I say thank you all. Take care, and until I see you again soon. By the way, pitch deck review next week for all the Zoom people who are part of Zero to Pitch already. Take care. Bye.